Did it work?
Yes.
What is it?
Gems.
Crystals. Awesome. It is Monday, February 6th, I think. It's like over 50 degrees. It's really balmy. I was expecting more though. I thought it would be sunny too. I was kind of hoping it'd be sunny, but it's just overcast. But at least it's not cold. So a question that I get from time to time about Chicago, or maybe it's more of a comment, but it's that Chicago is a beautiful city, and thanks to everyone who thinks that I'm doing a decent job of capturing that here. It is a beautiful city. They say it looks like a lovely city, but is it safe? The news says that has all these stories that it's a terrible city, crime is out of control, etc., etc. I think it's safe. It's the afternoon, I'm walking with my baby, I walk with my daughter. I feel safe in our neighborhood. When we're walking the dog at night, I feel safe just walking out. I feel safe, my wife walking the dog, by herself, even in the evening. And before we had kids, my wife used to travel quite a bit for work. And sometimes she would be taking the train home from the airport very late at night, and I generally felt pretty comfortable letting her do that. So overall, I feel like it's pretty safe. Now, it's not that, oh, this is awesome, look at that. That was cool. And so, generally I feel that things are pretty good. There's the news stories, there are a lot of stories about shootings. I'd say the easiest way to equate it in terms of the frequency and how much we really are or aren't inundated with stories of gun violence in Chicago is the last time I was in California, I was watching the morning news. I love watching morning news. It's in fact the only television that I really watch anymore. And in California, it's like every day there's a story about a car chase on the highway that ended in like a foot chase, and there were helicopters involved. And the last time I was in California, which was a couple of years ago, the last time I was there was one of those, if not two, every day that I was there, no exaggeration. And so I thought it was spectacular. We don't have things like that here. Very rarely do we have things like that here. And I think it's probably like that. We do have a story, probably at least one a day, of some sort of gun violence happening in the city of Chicago. I'm in Lakeview. It's just north of Lincoln Park, just south of Wrigleyville. And it's very, very far, a world away from some of the areas where a lot of this gun violence is happening. And so I'm very sequestered from it. Now I've had kind of one run-in with kind of crime in the city since I've lived here. It's been 11 years that I've lived here. No, 13 years that I've lived here, almost. And one time that I felt unsafe. The time I run-in with like crime was we used to have a car, and it was the dead of winter. A super blizzard had passed through. It might have been like the big Chicago blizzard, not the big one in the 70s, obviously, but the big one that hit and shut down Lakeshore Drive a couple years ago. And what people were doing was they were stealing wheels, the tires and like the wheel itself from cars, and leaving them like on jacks. And what they would do is, so I'd have street parking on one side, so you have one side of the car facing the street, the other side would face the park. And what people would do is they would come in, lift up one side of your car on a jack, and then steal two of the wheels. And I had a Honda Fit. Presumably that's a wheel that also fit Honda Civics. And so I think I was a prime target. I didn't have like those hubcap locks. So I had two wheels stolen. I had to be somewhere the following morning, and I thought I'd get out there early so I could shovel all the snow off, but instead I found out I was missing two tires. That was like 6 years ago. The time that I felt unsafe in Chicago was much more recent. It was this last summer, or maybe this last fall, and I was working late at a client's office. The guy's a friend of mine, and his office is in University Village, like Little Italy, that area. And it's a weird neighborhood, that area. I'm not that familiar with that part of Chicago. It's off the Blue Line. And we were working really late till about like 11 or 12 at night. And I'd called an Uber. And when it was nearby, I left the office. It was kind of like, you know, the first floor, like ground level retail. And I left, and the Uber, I could see it. It was maybe half a block away, and I waved at it for it to come by. And in the time between the time that the driver saw me half a block away and to the time that the car could get to me, a guy like rolled up. He didn't push me or anything, but he got very close to me, and he was asking me questions like, "Hey, do you live around here? Are you from here? That's a nice phone. Can I borrow your phone? I need to make a phone call. Can I look at it?" And I felt like the questions were that quick. And I felt like if that Uber car hadn't gotten there within the next 5 seconds or so, things could have gotten weird. So, I mean, it's not like I got held up or anything, but it was definitely a situation. But that's it. Those are the two incidents in 13 years living in a big city. I lived in St. Louis before Chicago, and I lived there I went to college there for 4 years, and I think I lived there another 3 years afterwards. And in that time I had my apartment broken into, my car got stolen. I one time helped thwart a wallet theft with my motorcycle. That's a story for another day. That's a good one. So I mean, it's all relative. The gas station that I used to go to in St. Louis, that was by my house, there was constantly shootings there, like once a weekend, maybe once a month. So I mean, it's all relative if you're living in an American city. But overall, I mean, Chicago's great. I love it. We haven't owned a car in over 5 years, and my commutes are very short and predictable. When the weather's nice, I can ride a bike to work or ride a bike home from work. And I can't imagine living anywhere else right now.